They try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't know the democracy. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody in church forever. important to think about. Death is swept under the carpet in our culture. In the hospital. Death. This is tremendously important to think about. Death is swept under the carpet in our culture. In the hospital. They try to keep you alive under desperation. They won't know the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody in church forever. swept under the carpet in our country. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive utter desperation. They won't know the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever.
Yep, those are all Clint's girlfriends, and they're celebrating his return. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Rudowski here of the best politicalshow.com, and we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest developments in the news right now, as of course there's a lot to get into, especially with the upcoming presidential debate that starts in less than 1 hour. The Pentagon is also telling American citizens to flee from Lebanon, as of course Zelensky just announced also that it's a time for peace. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here for the next 2 hours. So please share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It's more imperative than ever in order to fight the corporate media that really doesn't like independent media, that really doesn't like us showing these videos and commentating on them and criticizing them. But we're going to be doing that to the fullest extent that we can with a jam-packed house filled with incredible human beings. We're also going to be doing our best to take callers, as of course members of LukeUnfiltered.com get to the ability to call in. And we don't have a caller as of now. That could be you, as you could also super chat, but we prefer you guys use mysuperchat.com, as your super chats actually get to show up on screen, and there's only a 3% service charge. Check out mysuperchat.com, check out lukeunfiltered.com, and if you haven't signed up for those, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? As we do some really cool, awesome things like nature hikes all throughout the United States, trying to build up a culture of people becoming the best, strongest versions of themselves. Joining us for this jam-packed show is, of course, the one and only. You don't need to introduce yourself. People already know you, but for some of the people who live underneath a rock, Roger, who are you? And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Delighted to be back with you again. I had a great reaction last time I was here. It's great to be the moderate in the house, you know what I mean? But I'm Roger Stone. I'm a veteran of 13 national Republican presidential campaigns and one libertarian presidential campaign. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. I just go where the facts go. I'm a 45-year friend of Donald Trump's, and I think that the Trump nomination in 2016 was the hostile takeover of the Republican Party, taking it back from the Bushes and their Wall Street country club scum buddies. So I'm here, and tonight, and I think we're on the verge of seeing one of the greatest comebacks in American political history.
It's definitely going to be fascinating. It's definitely going to be historic, and we're very lucky to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Our audience really appreciates your time, your insight, because you have so much knowledge when it comes to everything that's happening behind the scenes that we always appreciate the knowledge that you're able to share with us. So thank you so much for joining us. Martha Bueno is also in the house. She helped me out a lot during Pork Fest. It was great to have you there, and it's great to have you here now as well. Who are you, Martha?
Thank you. I mean, I can't believe you're going to have me go immediately after Mr. Stone here, but I am a former political candidate. I am also an activist and an entrepreneur, and you can find me online at buenoformiami.
Clint is finally back after spending a lot of time with his harem, with his girlfriends, being very busy. I mean, this man is one busy guy. And a lot of people were saying that I was keeping you locked away in the basement.
No.
He is finally freed. He's finally here.
If you saw the girth on my girlfriends recently, you can understand why I've been in the hospital. Look, it's a tough life, but big ladies need love. At Liberty Lockpot on X. If you want to support my work, you can subscribe there. I'll follow you back. Liberty Lockdown is the show. I also do other shows. I don't want to talk about it. That's it. What's up, Steph?
Steph's in the house. She's a little preoccupied. She's like baking pierogies for the first time. How's that going?
I was really excited to make something special, and I didn't realize pierogies take like 5 hours or more.
So no pierogies tonight?
No, there are. We have pierogies.
All right, we'll celebrate pierogies hopefully afterwards.
Polish
Steph?
delicacy.
Pierogies are a way of life for the Polish people. We definitely appreciate it very much. As of course, there's so much to discuss. We got so many different things to get into.
Stolen from the Hungarians, just to be clear.
That's contested. Those are fighting words. We'll have to debate that maybe after the debates, as of course we are still just a few minutes out from the larger presidential debates that will be happening in just a few moments from now. And there's a lot of incredible memes. There's a lot of incredible art. There's a lot of incredible criticism of CNN. This right here by Defrans or Memes, great account, was pretty brilliant and highlights the potential situation that soon will be unfolding for the rest of the American people. Here it is.
Save me, Jake. Save me.
Get him out of here!
And that, of course, was Jake Tapper carrying Joe Biden, the president of the United States, and Donald Trump coming in there and, of course, sacking both of them. Now, will this happen? This is a question that I think is very interesting to ask, since the last presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump didn't go as a lot of people expected it to go. What do you guys expect to happen tonight, as, of course, all eyes are on these presidential candidates? The pressure is just tremendous. The average human being can't deal with so many eyeballs. I think if anyone can, it is Donald Trump. How will Joe Biden perform as a career politician, always being in the spotlight, always being in these moments? What kind of substances is he going to be on? How is he going to perform? That's a question that we are going to get the answers to very soon. But what do you guys think is going to unfold in just a few moments from now?
Shall I go first?
Please.
I don't have the slightest idea. Let's get right down to it. I mean, I've been opining on this for about 4 days straight. I said to my wife on the way here, I'm kind of talked out on this subject. Here's what I know. Trump is the coolest customer you've ever met. I mean, this guy never gets rattled. There's never any evidence that he's under strain in the worst possible situations. When he was broke, I mean, when his because of the crash, when his entire real estate empire was collapsing around him, the guy looked like he didn't have a care in the world. Going into these debates, he doesn't do debate preparation with somebody playing Biden. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He does little reads. He takes some notes. He asks people questions. What do you think? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? But he's incredibly self-confident. He knows what he wants to say. He knows when he wants to say it. He knows how he wants to say it. He takes a few little notes, but that's it. Meanwhile, Joe is doing something for 7 days straight. I don't know what that is.
He cleared his schedule. He didn't do any public appearances.
Clearly
he was
not
at
running-
Camp David.
Clearly not running the country, that's for sure.
If he ever was.
He's never been.
He's never
I don't think that's a problem.
I honestly think that the rules, even though Trump's got a lot of flack for accepting the CNN debate protocols, I think in some way the muted mics may be the best thing that ever happened to him, because I thought that the biggest mistake he made, if there was one during the debates back in 2020, was that he was overly aggressive towards Biden, who was very feeble, who was muttering, stuttering, basically couldn't get a sentence put together. And instead of allowing him to essentially hang himself by his own petard, he interjected. And it's like, I think because Biden is such a disaster, it's probably best to just let him try and talk himself out of the paper bag, because I don't think he can.
Yeah, he's definitely going into the lion's den. He's going into enemy territory. He's going into a presidential debate that is hosted by CNN. I mean, this is a network that right now is literally trying to flash their symbol as many places as they can, because this is one of the few times that people will actually be tuning in to CNN, other than poor people at the airport who have to be induced to it when they're trying to get on their flight. And I think even those people have, aren't kind of willing participants in this larger alleged news network that clearly is very biased, clearly has a side that they're rooting for, clearly is taking orders from the intelligentsia, from the deep state, from the Democratic establishment. So a lot of people are saying there's going to be some underhanded actions by CNN. It's going to be interesting because they control a lot of all the happenings for tonight. They control the audience, they control the microphones, they control the cameras. They're only allowing 2 people from each camp to be at the actual debate hall. And a lot of people are saying there's going to be some shenanigans. There's going to be something afoot here. We're going to be paying close attention to it. But even attending some of the presidential debates that I was at, I saw a lot of kind of underhanded things happening to Vivek Ramaswamy during this year's kind of presidential elections. I saw them kind of cut off his mic in many instances. I saw them not kind of highlight what was happening in the audience or the audience's reaction. So it's ripe for manipulation. Will they be able to pull it off under this tightly controlled kind of news network is another significant question that I'm kind of asking myself.
I think they made the biggest mistake I think he made was not having a live audience. Granted, a CNN audience would have been very unfavorable towards Trump, but there's something to be said for his ability to play off the crowd. As someone who was sitting there 5th row for the LP convention when he's telling the libertarians that they ought to be voting for him and he's getting booed mercilessly, there's just something about the energy that he feeds off of with the crowd that not having them there, not having that gasp factor, that laugh factor, he's really a stand-up comic. And to your point about how he's such a cool customer and he doesn't really take notes or doesn't do much prep, I think that's what makes him such a special political candidate, is that it's that authenticity. If you're a prepackaged, pre-programmed type of politician in this environment, the American people sniff it out. They want authenticity. They want you to ad-lib only Rosie O'Donnell. Like, they want that.
Yeah,
they want those moments.
I agree. The fact that he's not packaged, he's not managed, he's not handled, he's not scripted, that's what makes him interesting. He's a man working without a net, and people want to see that because anything could happen. I also have to say this. In 45 years in American politics, I've met a lot of reporters, for good and for worse. Jake Tapper is the single worst piece of crap I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, this guy is human garbage. He made jokes about me going to prison, but guess what, Jake? I'm here, free and alive, and your career, I think, is on life support because nobody's watching your stupid television show. I mean, to be very clear, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet.
I saw that talking point going around, and very well put. But how do you really feel, Roger?
I gotta stop mincing words. And of course, look, this talking point's been out there, but Dana Bash's ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, one of the 51 intelligence officers who co-signed a letter, which they knew was false, saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. So how objective is she going to be? First, I thought to myself, well, let's see, Bash, Tapper, Biden, that's 3 on 1. And I figured, it's actually 2.5 on 1 because let's face it, Joe is not all there.
What kind of drugs do you think Joe's going to be on tonight?
Definitely Adderall. You saw during the State of the State thing how he ran down like a wind-up clock. So in the beginning, he's all piss and vinegar, and by the end of it, he looked like he had the crap kicked out of him. So I don't think they can keep him going for 90 minutes. They really did want this to be a sit-down debate. I'm not sure how that finally got resolved. Are they standing?
I think they're standing, and I think they can't sit. So I think those are the rules here. As, of course, what Martha brought up is what the Daily Mail was even speculating, as they have an article that reads, Adderall, testosterone, and bee pollen, the truth of performance-enhancing debate drugs, and whether Biden could really be juiced up at the big showdown, as, of course, the Biden administration has declined to do drug tests before the presidential debates, which I would love to see. I would love to see drug tests on all the politicians. I want to see all of them treated essentially like people on welfare, because they are. We pay for them. There should be a lot of accountability. There should be a lot of investigations into what's really going on here, since clearly Joe Biden probably will be hopped up on a lot of stuff. And when it comes to debates and when it comes to giving speeches, there's performance enhancers that a lot of people use. Some people use nicotine. Some people use caffeine. There's a lot of things that help kind of spur on your mind, and it's going to be really interesting what kind of wonder drugs or what they have Joe Biden on, since clearly he is at a very old age. The debate is late. A lot of people sundown at this very specific time. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sleeping right now and that they're going to wake him up like 20 minutes before this debate and then just put him right on stage. And that could be why he's at Camp David, because they're setting up his sleep schedule so he wakes up at this specific time. So he's absolutely just ready to go, ready to perform.
I think that's right. Actually, I believe he got up at 2:56 this afternoon to fly to Atlanta. So they've got him on a sleep cycle. By the way, send me that link. I just need it for, educational purposes. You understand?
Yep. Sending it to your Twitter
by the
right
way,
now.
There's no chance that he's on bee pollen and testosterone. The dude's on Vyvanse. He has a back alley sommelier in Hunter Biden that can teach him all the tricks of the trade to make sure that his heart doesn't explode based off the uppers that they put him on. He's going to be juiced to the gills. He's been juiced to the gills every time he does the State of the Union. But he still comes across. What's funny is that when he's energized, he comes across like a raving lunatic as opposed to someone who's authoritative or speaking intelligently.
I think that's because the two of the classic symptoms of dementia are this tendency to forget what you're saying in the middle of anyway, and then additionally, the hair trigger, temper. Yep. The temper, that's a sure sign. I spoke to a former Democrat U.S. Senator who's a friend of mine last night who served with him, and he said, Joe cannot think on his feet. He's never been able to think on his feet. That's why he falls back on these embellished in some cases, completely phony stories that he makes up. He's not capable of shifting gears on his feet. He's very slow. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and this indeed is a very old dog.
I remember talking to him about 15 years ago when he was still running to be president of the United States under the Democratic ticket. I specifically talked to him about his meetings with the head of the Pakistani ISI right after 2001, right after those events in New York City. And even then, he kind of lashed out at me and it was like, I told them not to do it. And I'm like, wait, you told them what? Hold on, what's really going on here? Left me perplexed. A lot of the viewing audience was also perplexed about what Joe Biden was talking about here, as this man clearly had issues for a very long time. He had brain aneurysms. He has stents inside of his brain right now as we're speaking. So clearly, this is going to be a performance that a lot of people are paying close attention to. But with Donald Trump leading in the polls, especially in a lot of the key swing states, Trump has more to lose here than he does to win. And he has to come off with a performance where he's not too aggressive. He's not punching down too much, but he also has to kind of stick to these issues and kind of get them across to the American people, with the hosts of these debates clearly trying to control a lot of the aspects of the people's reaction here. There's a reason there's no viewing audience here. We also got the news right now. I just kind of checked on the YouTube channel where this is going to be playing in about 11 minutes from now, that CNN just turned off the comments, which it sucks. What are they trying to hide here? Why can't we have the comments? Why can't we see what people are saying? Why can't we see what people are thinking? Why did CNN send cease and desist letters to independent media that are going to be calling this and not falling for whatever narrative is largely going to be pushed here? So it is interesting to see the comments turned off. It is interesting to see them try to stop independent media, and it's going to be extremely telling to see what's going to unfold in just a few minutes from now.
One thing he's always done, I'm really anxious to see whether he does it tonight. He always threatens to beat up his opponent.
Yes,
when he debated John Burris, who was a trucking executive, Republican, great guy, ran against him for the Senate in Delaware. This guy would have put Biden away with one shot, just like Trump. And Joe's like, I should take him out here behind the barn. What are you talking about? Of course, they accuse us of being the ones who are violent. I mean, this guy has got a hairpin trigger. And he's always had it. I mean, he was an obnoxious asshole before he had dementia.
Yeah. And he was an idiot before he had brain damage.
I mean
he's
and let's face it, wrong on every major foreign policy issue throughout his entire career.
And most domestic.
And I was going to say the same thing, and most domestic. So CNN is going to have a 2-minute delay. They're going to be able to turn off mics. They have no comments. They have
that
no
2-minute
audience.
delay is actually being contested right now. So the kind of talking point on social media was that there's going to be 2 minutes where they're going to be able to control and censor what happens. CNN is now coming out saying that is not going to be the case. So just to clarify.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
But why
So-
should we believe them, though?
Exactly.
I don't. One tactical question for you, Roger, because obviously I understand tactically why Trump didn't debate his opponents in the primary. He had no reason to. He was such a hands-down favorite. However, I think there is something to be said, as someone who's now done a lot of professional debates, like I think there's something to be said for the skill set being fresh on tearing your opponent apart in real time. He's going into this after not having debated for 4 years. That's got to be kind of tough, no?
Because I think he did those town halls, and he did a lot of the town halls. In many ways, they're very similar. And he did CNN town halls. Just look at the way he put Caitlin Collins away. He put her away. Yeah. She's another obnoxious pain in the ass. But I thought he handled her. You're a nasty woman. That was one of his greatest lines ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
And he also had the best moment.
If she is in fact a woman, I'm not really sure about that.
He also had one of the best moments of his re-election campaign where he said, "I just want people to stop dying," in reference to the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought that was fantastic. I think you might be right that has been enough of a trial by fire that he'll be.
Remember, he also performed really well at the Libertarian Convention, where he had a lot of hostility against him. I mean, people were outright booing him, and then he turned it around.
I think that might have been the most hostile room Trump has ever been.
Probably.
Honestly.
And he turned it around. He did fantastic. He got the crowd from booing to cheering, of course, after he said that he would free Ross, but, you know.
No, I think he successfully won over a large portion of the Libertarian vote.
I think
his
he did.
strategy, again, Because people are saying Trump shouldn't do this debate. He went into the lion's den at the Libertarian National Convention. He got booed. He got screamed at, and he came out from that larger kind of move that he made with a lot of support. What a lot of people are saying, I never thought about voting for him. Now I'm actually going to be voting for them. Martha, you're one of them.
I am.
And there's a lot of libertarians that I met. I was at PorkFest recently, which is kind of a libertarian camp out with thousands of people.
And anarchists.
And anarchists and hippies and weirdos and naked people and firearm people. A great
Our kind of people.
The really fun people in our society. And they had stickers that everyone was kind of passing around saying, "Free Ross, vote Trump." So that is a sentiment that is being carried by a lot of libertarians now.
It helps a lot that the Libertarian Party nominated a guy who's not a libertarian. So that makes the libertarian vote available.
Yeah, a woke
Sure
social
does.
justice warrior that defeated Clinton.
Narrowly.
Narrow. Thank you, Roger. And in fairness, I didn't lose to that guy. I lost to the cop. Let's be honest.
Hey,
That's
Clint,
even worse. As a libertarian, you lost to
That's
the
the
cop.
joke.
Clint,
It's self-deprecation. I'm kidding.
Hey, Clint, our whole plan worked perfect.
Yes, it did. This is really bad because this has been the haters' thesis is that in fact we were running to try and get him in there to help.
Well, you were
Trump.
seen with Roger Stone. You were seen with him.
Exactly.
There you
That's
go.
right. Yep.
So Trump's popularity is at an all-time low, and of course, one of the most important issues for voters this election cycle is going to be the economy. Now, with very low poll numbers, with bad economic numbers, this is something that is becoming a key issue for a lot of people, as there's videos like this that routinely now go viral, highlighting one man who is reordering his groceries from 2022, highlighting how the cost of a Build Back Better Bidenomics isn't really working out for him personally. Here's the clip that's going viral today.
I feel like I'm gonna be sick. I just looked through my Walmart history, and I found this Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries. 45 items cost $126. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is 4 times more. How the fuck?
Yeah, it's fair to say the economy isn't working for a lot of people. This is going to be the key issue for a lot of people. How will CNN bring up the economy? How will they frame this issue? It's going to be something that I think is going to be important, since the moderators are going to be bringing these topics up. So are they even going to be talking about the economy? If you're Jake Tapper, do you even bring it up? And how do you do that and not kind of highlight the clear problems that all the Americans are facing right now?
I think they do. This coming Sunday, I have Barry Habib on my show. The guy's recognized as one of the leading experts on mortgages and the housing market, but he's also a very shrewd, pro-freedom economic analyst, and he showed me exactly how the inflation number and the unemployment number are completely rigged. Those numbers are not even close to reality. He said, look, they've been rigged by administrations in the past, but in this case, they have just really, they're giving you just total crap. But Biden will stand up there and say, look, the economy's going great. And Jake will say, it certainly is, Mr. President. I mean, these guys are so full of crap. And we are building back better if you listen to Joe. They believe their own crap. That's really the problem.
But if you go to the supermarket, you can't believe that because it's
That's why it won't work. You see, you're right. So people don't feel it. They know there's no affordable housing. Gasoline last night in South Florida, $4.69 a gallon. Unbelievable.
Yes, and Joe Biden, of course, is tapping into the reserves, and that price is expected to go up, especially with the news coming from the Middle East, especially with Saudi Arabia getting rid of the kind of U.S. petrodollar deal that they had before, with a lot of those reports coming in as well. Steph, we have some super chats. Can you read them off the Telegram channel? As, of course, I also wanted to introduce this story from the New York Post that now is highlighting how allegedly 16 Nobel Prize-winning economists are warning that Trump's policies will, quote, reignite inflation. Are you kidding me?
worse than now.
Inflation's 9%. How can it be reignited? I mean,
Yeah, it's like throwing a match into a trash fire. That's essentially what they're kind of
Didn't
saying
they say
here.
that about Malay too in Argentina? And it's for the first time ever, it's at 0%. So I mean, I think those economists might be a little wrong.
Well, the first time in a long time, grocery prices in Argentina haven't been inflated, haven't gone up, which is major news.
I know Malay was telling Trump he had to get himself a chainsaw for tonight. I don't know if he's going to really do it, but that was his advice.
That would be epic.
That really would.
Oh
be.
That
my
would
God.
be great, and that
I
would
love that.
solidify a lot more of the libertarian vote and a lot more, I think, of the independent vote, a lot more of the people who are kind of in the middle that are truly going to be deciding this election. There's a big portion of the American people that are not voting, that are not kind of paying attention to politics, and I think the way to kind of win them over is to say, we're going to be cutting this, we're going to be getting rid of this, we're going to make sure that government stays out of your way with all these particular things that you're trying to do in your own individual life. As I think Wall Street Silver has the best comment here, and he says they are doing it again. 2020, 51 former Intel agents. 2024, 16 Nobel economists. Who are these economists, and are they not seeing what's happening right now to the American people? Are they not seeing the larger kind of pain that people are feeling inside of the supermarket as they're trying to just survive this hyperinflation that, of course, is affecting all the American people in just some of the worst possible ways?
Well, people's memory always kind of goes blank, but it was about 2 years ago when Biden was pushing the Inflation Reduction Act, if people remember that. Same exact game plan. We've got a dozen Nobel Prize winning economists that all say that this is going to reduce inflation by printing and borrowing trillions of more dollars. It's going to reduce inflation. I mean, these people lie through their teeth. I don't know why any of these reports have any validity with the American people. I think by and large they don't, and that's good.
But you got to trust the experts, Clint. The experts know what is right for you.
Yeah.
And the
Trust the science.
Trust the science.
Yeah.
Right.
the
There you go.
Inflation Reduction Act that actually spends more of your money
Trust
and
the
causes more
economists,
inflation
trust
is
the
good.
scientists, you
Yes.
know? Don't
Trust-
think, just trust.
Our Nobel Prize winning economists like Paul Krugman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that guy has a lot of credibility.
Yeah,
He's never been
really-
wrong.
Oh no, come on! Remember, if Trump was elected, we're gonna have a stock market crash. There's no question about it. World war and a stock market crash.
As we're facing World War and a stock market
Right,
crash.
exactly.
It's almost like they're gaslighting us
Yeah.
into believing that
yeah.
if we elect Trump, exactly what's happening right now is going to happen.
Yeah. Steph, read the super chats really quick. Let's go.
projection.
All right, so we got Sam Seapole saying CNN having control of the mics allows the opportunity for them to use AI to make Trump look bad and Biden look good. And without an audience, there's no one to argue that it is not what was said. With the recent cheap fakes claim, no one would believe Trump.
Well, there's two other people from each campaign that are going to be inside of that room. So he'll have two other witnesses, but still, that's kind of sketchy. And then we have another one.
We got Red Viking
No,
saying...
no, right here.
Oh, okay. We got Little Drinky Poo saying, just got here, Clint, glad to see you're alive. 2 weeks is a bit ridiculous for a little cold, though, dude.
Well, in fairness, it was just a week that I was really laid out. But
Speaking about World War, we got this latest news from Disclosed.tv showing how the U.S. Pentagon is telling American citizens to evacuate Lebanon. This is major news. This is very troubling news, as, of course, a lot of people are looking at what's happening with foreign policy happening in the world, happening in Ukraine, happening in the Middle East, happening in Taiwan as a kind of hallmarker for something that could potentially even disrupt this election. This is not a good sign, as of course Benjamin Netanyahu's career is kind of on the line here after all these wars are over inside of the Middle East. And I think it's fair to say that there's another storm brewing here that's going to be very disruptive, that's going to be very bad, as under the Biden administration, we have had huge, grand escalations of warfare to grand proportions that are extremely dangerous for everyone, not just the American people, but for the people of the world. I don't know what you guys think of this latest news, but this highlights how there's probably going to be some very serious action happening in Lebanon soon, and it's not going to be good for the people of the Middle East.
Well, as you know, this has happened before, and it was a brutal genocide there by the Israelis. under Eric Sharon, as a matter of fact. Look, this is what happens when you give $190 billion in unfrozen assets to a bunch of lunatics who say, oh, don't worry, we're going to spend this for humanitarian purposes, no problem. Then as soon as you get the money, they say, we can spend this any way we want. And they are, to restart their nuclear weapons program and to finance Hamas and Hezbollah. So here's Joe Biden essentially financing both sides of the war, which is exactly what he's doing. It is a powder keg. The other problem you have, of course, is where I think I'll get criticized for this because I'm a Russian stooge, but Putin, I think, is showing amazing restraint. Do you think his right-wing generals are not saying, Vlad, why are you screwing around with these people? Why don't you just hit them with tactical nukes, which would be the worst possible thing?
Yeah, and the people around Vladimir Putin are more of war hawks than he is.
That's what I'm
he's
saying.
surrounded by a lot of nationalists, a lot of extremists who are saying, hey, we need more war. We need to use those nuclear weapons. We need to show Ukraine that we mean business. And Vladimir Putin, luckily hasn't gone there, even though there's a lot of threats.
I think he's waiting to see if he can get a peace deal after the next election.
But
Antony Blinken, who's as bad at the guitar as he is at statecraft, this guy has already announced that, well, we're going to put Ukraine into NATO. In September. Well, that violates the Budapest Memorandum, which we signed. It violates the Minsk Accords. That's what this war is really about.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about the territorial ambitions of Vladimir Putin and the Russians. It's about two agreements we signed not to put nuclear missiles on the ground in Ukraine pointed at Russia that we're currently violating.
And if you are the Biden administration, it's in your favor to kind of ramp up these wars. It's going to be more advantageous for you to spark them up, to make them more chaotic, to create more of a crazy situation that everyone's going to be looking at and being like, we have to stay the course. We have to keep the current administration in there.
Yes, I agree, but it will be a mistake. Now Donald Trump becomes the peace candidate. I think he already is the peace candidate. I think this is another strong appeal to libertarians. You want to head off two world wars? Here's a guy who's a deal maker. By the way, Biden himself said, I'd probably give him the Donbass at the beginning. So this could have been solved from the very beginning. Here's the worst part. We don't even have peace talks going. There's no negotiations going on, not because the Ukrainians don't want it, but because the State Department vetoes it.
I think that the important dot that needs to be connected is that, if you guys recall, it was the wind down of the Afghan war that, in my opinion, basically only happened because there was an expectation that there might be a war against Russia. I think that that's exactly what we're seeing with Lebanon, is that Israel is preparing to invade Lebanon. Therefore, you now have Zelensky that comes out this morning and says, I'm interested in peace. Well, hey, Vlad, you had a peace offer on the table just a week ago. It only took you 1 hour to shoot it down. What changed? Well, I'll tell you what changed. The Biden administration and Blinken administration said, after talking to Netanyahu, we need to go to the negotiating table and work on peace. I think that's exactly how it played out.
This was the best thing about Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, where Putin says, on 2 occasions I would meet with American presidents. They would agree to do something. Then they would go home and talk to the CIA.
Right.
And then they would come back and say, we can't do that after all. And Putin said, well, maybe I should start dealing directly with them. Why do I need a middleman?
Exactly.
No, we have an article pulled up that brings to your point exactly what you were saying. If you have to do Alex's show, just let us know, and then we'll make sure to take callers and do other stuff while you do that as well. But it is true what you were saying. For a very long time, the Ukrainians and the Americans were saying no peace deal, no negotiations. We're not even going to talk about what will happen if we're ever going to end this. We're just going to continue this war up until today, as we got very surprising video footage from Volodymyr Zelensky that has announced, quote, it's time for peace with Russia. We have too many dead people. And if you said this a few days ago, you would be called, a Russian asset. You would be called someone who isn't there for the Ukrainian people. But in reality, this is something that I've been saying for a long time. Elon Musk has been saying for a long time. Even other individuals like RFK Jr., who's holding his own larger kind of presidential debate just by himself, is also saying that, as he came out today saying that the Ukrainians should have cut a deal earlier and could have saved face, could have saved territory, and could have saved an entire generation of people. Now, we might disagree with RFK Jr. on some topics here, but he's been talking about this issue for a very long time, responding to, of course, these comments from Volodymyr Zelensky today. It's only 35 seconds. We're going to play the clip of it right now.
We have to find and to prepare this plan and to put this plan on the table during months. We don't have too much time because we have a lot of wounded and dead people on the battlefield and through civilians. That's why we don't want to have this war during years. So that's why we want to prepare this joint plan, put it on the table to the second peace summit.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he means it. You look at his face, you look at his eyes, you look at his demeanor, it's like, this guy wants peace. And why now, right before the presidential debate? What's going on here? That's what a lot of people have some serious questions about.
I'm telling you, I think it has everything to do with this Lebanon news. We've known for about a week now that the IDF was preparing for a ground invasion into Lebanon. I don't think it's coincidental at all that he shifted.
Exactly. And if the United States is saying, we're going to have to support our buddies in the Middle East, we won't be able to support you guys because there's another war brewing here. That highlights a situation where Zelensky kind of got the message like, yo, there's going to be another war. We won't be able to have your back here. And with the developments, because I'm following the developments in Ukraine very closely. I'm looking at every battle. I'm looking at almost every single piece of video and report coming from Ukraine. It's not looking good for the people of Ukraine, and it hasn't been looking good for a long time. But they're slowly losing more and more territory, more and more of their young people, and the fighting there is just brutal. It's absolutely crazy.
What's so insulting, though, is that it hasn't looked good for 2 years, Luke. I mean, they've been getting their teeth kicked in for 2 years straight. Nothing's really changed other than the body count. So the fact that this shift comes out of the blue, I'm not exaggerating. It was a week ago that Putin was like, yo, we want basically the territories that we have now, but we're going to allow for them to be neutral, just be a buffer zone. And that's it. And then we'll withdraw, you withdraw, like, we're good. And they said within an hour, no thanks, not interested.
Those dollars, I mean, they were getting all that cash, and now they're not going to. Money talks.
Absolutely. As, of course, the Russians have now utilized a kind of new tactic as they're just literally obliterating entire towns with these new kind of flamethrower bombs that they're using that are just absolutely wreaking havoc on the local population and a lot of the kind of military troops that are trying to fight the Russians, only to be bombed to smithereens. And again, this footage of what actually transpired, specifically with this video, it's absolutely horrific. It's absolutely horrible. We saw the drone footage. We played it last night with former UFC champion Rashad Evans, and he's a fighter himself. And then he came to the conclusion, this is barbaric. This is absolutely evil. This is absolutely what he described as a larger kind of sacrifice, a larger kind of ritualistic kind of death of human beings that are just being thrown away. For what reason? As of course, people should be questioning this insanity from the very beginning. Now, Roger had to step out because he has an interview with Alex Jones for 10 minutes. He's going to be right back. So we're going to take this moment to also tell you about our sponsor who helps us be here, who allows us to be here, that is working with us. And that, of course, is Alpine Gold. We have a website called getintogoldnow.com. I met these guys. I talked to them at PorkFest. They were on the show last week, and they're great guys. And they have some great products, including these gold backs. They have IRAs. They have a lot of different stuff, specifically when it comes to gold, precious metals, which are a hedge against inflation. As, of course, let's just be honest here. Joe Biden, if he wins, he's going to spend a lot of your money. Donald Trump also has a record of spending a lot of your money. And this is why it's kind of a no-brainer that we work with companies like Alpine Gold. Getintogoldnow.com is the website, as of course our dollar is losing value, and a lot of people are turning to gold and silver to diversify their wealth. Gold, for a lot of people, might seem outdated, but it is still a tangible form of money, especially with these little gold backs that they have available to you, as Alpine Gold has a lot of dealers all throughout the United States that you guys could go find and support. I like these gold backs. A lot of people at PorkFest use them. Martha was there. She saw it firsthand.
I got a few.
Yeah. I got some here right on my desk as well. And people were buying their food, buying services, buying other stuff. There was an ATF store at PorkFest, and they were taking goldbacks. So
Just so people know, those goldbacks are actually gold leaf, so it's
Yeah.
actual gold.
Real gold inside.
It
They're
is. It's
so
like
good.
plastic.
They're really pretty gifts too. I give them as gifts. I gave them to my sister who got married as a gift. I got it for like a newborn kid as a gift. Like I think they're really nice gifts, and they're beautiful.
They are beautiful, and it's a great way to actually use gold. I mean, who carries around a
Exactly.
bar of gold or like a coin?
Jewelry is a good one. You can wear gold on jewelry.
That
you can
too.
do that, or you
I
can
carry
get a
around
bunch
a
of gold
briefcase
bags.
of gold. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Alpine Gold has been around since 2011 and has done hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions. They have branches around the country to serve people who want to preserve their wealth in their own communities. Their IRA program is one of the only programs in the world that allows you to earn guaranteed interest with the ability to spend and use your metals with 0% spread. The government and Fed can't control inflation or their own spending, and for the first time in human history, we have the technology and ability to have an alternative option to spend, preserve, and increase your wealth. Check out Alpine Gold today.
Yeah, shouts out to those guys, as of course, the people that work with us directly. We have partnerships, relationships. These guys also work with Ron Paul. They work with a lot of great people. They have a great reputation. Check out getintogoldnow.com. The link will be in the description and in the comment section, so you guys could go support the people that support us, and we could have a win-win kind of situation here. As we should also try to take a caller before we get on with the show, as of course we are only a few minutes away from the larger presidential debates. CNN has already started to stream their broadcast, which will officially begin in about 17 minutes from now. We, of course, won't be playing any of the kind of propaganda crap that they're going to be spewing before, as they have also threatened to get rid of independent media and do what essentially are fake copyright strikes against them for restreaming it. It looks like the website that we usually go to, that rhymes with humble, is actually down.
No.
So we might have to
No.
risk it for the brisket.
Yeah.
Or we could just run it exclusively on X.
Or we could do both.
All right. Hey,
We'll see what happens here.
you live
But
the wild life. It's up to you.
I do live a pretty wild life.
I can tell you what's going to happen if you keep on this site, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, so it looks like the backup site is actually down. As our
Bad timing.
So we're also on Twitter at Luke We Are Change. By the way, we could also do it so we could be streaming through your guys' Twitter accounts as well too in the future. We'll talk about that as I think Twitter, Rumble are definitely the places to do it. But this is also with Chris Pavlovsky coming out and saying, hey, we are making sure that we are going to have our infrastructure ready to go for mass viewership. Tim Pool said he's going to be on this particular platform that looks like it's down. Is it down for everyone else? Can everyone can you
Checking
guys
right now.
double check? Because it's down for me. And
It's still on now.
Steph, you're a bit of a boomer. I don't know if you
I don't know.
understand that.
I see you right here.
Clint, is it up for you? No, it's not up for Clint. You're a boomer, Steph. As of course, let's read off the last super chats that we have here, and then we're going to be going to the callers. Steph, go ahead.
Oh,
Stop being a boomer.
The super chats. Okay. Well, we have Red Viking saying, "Get me Roger Stone, bass before it was cool." OG.
Keep going.
Jack D saying, "Would you resist conscription? If so,
Yes.
how?
Put me in jail. I don't
Would
care.
you risk jail? Congrats, Luke, on growing your brand. By the way, I remember when you were just some random guy approaching demons disguised as humans."
Yes, thank you, Jack. You've been with us for a long time. We've been doing this for 20 plus years. And look at the studio. Look at the work ethic we put into this. It's only going to grow from here. We got a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys. We got a lot of big trips coming up to Freedom Fest. What's the promo code from Freedom Fest? Luke 50. If you want some tickets.
Luke, we are change.
We got the
We are
Bitcoin
change
conference.
50.
We are change 50. We got the Bitcoin conference. We're going to be giving out free tickets. We're going to be at the RNC. We're going to be doing work with. I'm doing a special show with Tim Pool. That Thursday at the RNC. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with the quartering. So only big things are going to be coming, as it looks like there's a deliberate attack right now. Breaking news. There's a deliberate attack on a free speech platform that was promising to, of course, stream the debates without fear from, of course, CNN, that is threatening small and independent content creators. What's going to happen? Well, time will only tell. As of course, now we're going to try to go to one of our callers, Michael Holden Graver, who is a member of LukeUnfiltered.com, who said that he wanted to call in. And we always appreciate you guys as members. We do nature hikes with you guys, and we try to have conversations with you guys. And Michael, you are on air with everyone. What is your question for us?
Hey. Wanted to know you guys' thoughts on the nanotech stuff. I know that when Clint interviewed Melissa McAtee, the Pfizer whistleblower, she kind of touched on it. But there's these physicians out there that do dark field microscopy and live blood analysis, and they're finding these nanostructures in people's blood. They're finding them even in like wild animals and livestock that didn't get vaccines. So just wanted to know a little bit more if you guys are keeping an eye on that.
Great question, Michael. As of course, my friend Jason Burmis has been talking about nanotech and the larger implications of it for a very long time now. And what he told me about it is absolutely terrifying. As of course, it's essentially like those drones that you see fly in Ukraine, but in your body, like the magic school bus that could do weird stuff. That's not fun and not going to be good for you and not going to, of course, help you. As of course, those could be weaponized and could be used to hurt you. But there's also a lot of people who want to live forever that believe that these nanobots could be kind of injected into people in order to help repair and fix bodily functions. So people will, of course, live on forever. Clint, the question is kind of more directed at you. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know much beyond what that lady had to say to me. I was shaken by it for sure. Unfortunately, this realm runs into a lot of woo, so you end up with a lot of people that are spreading a lot of fake information too. So I don't really know what the truth of it is in terms of how dangerous it is. How I think it's very dangerous, but how pervasive it already is. Like I don't know that it's actually out there in mass already. If it is, then it's kind of an argument as to like, well, what do you do about it at that point? No one's even being held to account for the lockdown era. Do you think they're going to be held to account for this, given that there's no corporate reporting that's happening? 90+% of people have no idea what we're even talking about right now. So we've got to do the educational process if we're ever going to get public will to address this, in my opinion. But I am certainly nervous about it. But simultaneously, as with all these technological innovations, it's a double-edged sword. Amazing capacity to remedy things. Imagine if you had nanobots that can go in and surgically remove tumors. I mean, these are like really, really amazing gifts, but unfortunately, the government is almost certainly going to use them.
Yeah, but that's not going to be used for us. That's going to be used for them.
Right.
And there's a lot of implications here. As of course, technological advancements do signal larger threats against humanity, especially with the people who wield and control the technology. Michael, I hope we answered your question. Anything else you'd like to say? And thank you so much for being a caller. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thanks to you guys. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a caller, being a member on LukeUnfiltered.com. As I'm getting reports of some people saying that this website sometimes is working, sometimes is not working. And hold on, we got to get rid of some spammers in the chat room here really quickly.
I would imagine, I mean, they're going to be doing everything in their power to try and get the platform back up. So let's hold off until the actual debate starts. Maybe it's still an option. We'll see.
Well, the fact that it's taken down highlights more attacks against free speech.
Oh, I agree.
So they're trying to control the narrative, and this is why your voice, you sharing the broadcast, you being here, a part of the audience, a part of independent media that's risking it all for you is so critically important. Your memberships, LukeUnfiltered.com, matter so much to us because we would not be here if it wasn't for you guys supporting independent media. Again, this is a runaway crap show that they're trying to control the entire narrative on, and we will not let them. So right now, I would ask you guys to go to Twitter and follow me at Luke We Are Change, because let's just say that we stay on this particular platform. If we do stay on this platform and this platform gets taken down, we of course are running another live stream right now on twitter.com/@LukeWeAreChange. So anything and everything could happen. The situation is very dynamic. It's very crazy. And I think it's fair to say that there's some nefarious players out there that really do not want counter-narrative information. Really do not want independent media that are going to be there saying, wait, hold on. No, this is a lie. This is bullcrap.
Yeah.
Calling out their lies in real time is extremely powerful. Live video, extremely powerful. So shout out to you guys. Yeah, we had like 3,000 people watching on the other platform. And we were just building our audience, just down.
And you know
for
what's
everyone.
interesting about that other platform is that it's still running right now, but the live chat is taken down.
Well,
so
no,
nobody can actually speak.
It's
and
running
share.
for some people, but when you refresh it and when you try to go to it, you can't.
Yeah, I refreshed it and all I can see it. I can watch us, but I just don't see the live chat. Like all of our family is gone.
If you go to @LibertyLockPod on X, I just retweeted Luke's tweet, so make sure that you watch it on mine, not on Luke's, because that's important.
No, watch it on mine.
I also retweeted it, and I refreshed my Rumble, and it is completely blank. So at least you have something, Steph.
Yes.
Yeah, on the app. The app is pretty good. But
Oh, is it
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Okay. I
Well, they
gotta
also
try
have a
that.
TV application as well, so some people might be watching on TV. Who knows about exactly what's kind of happening here? I'm going to reach out to them right now and see what's
Network error.
I'm going to see what's going on just so we could get breaking information from the source. As I do that, again, this highlights very underhanded actions by some nefarious players out here that are absolutely terrified of you guys having a voice, of you guys hearing information that they do not want to hear. As I text them, you guys fill the void.
We've got Roger Stone outside on the phone with Alex Jones right now. Life is very strange. Look, I'm excited about this debate. I obviously I don't want Biden to be the president again. I think it would be catastrophic.
Don't worry,
But-
he's never been the president.
fair point.
He's still not the president.
Yeah, but I'm very anxious to see what version of Trump presents himself tonight. If he's going to be able to be kind of the vibrant 2016, tear everybody to pieces version of himself, but doing it in that jovial way that still kind of maintains the humorous aspects. I think that's him at his best. Does he still have that gear? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch him tonight. I'm really more worried about Biden's performance than I am about Trump's. I think that, I've been excited to watch this because what Biden is going to show up. First of all, which of the Biden faces?
Yes. They do
Which
have
of
many.
the Biden faces? I mean, he's just such a diverse man that can. Sometimes his ears are really close to his head, and sometimes they're like really separated.
I will
wild.
say though, he has gotten better looking. If you remember about 15, 20 years ago.
Is that a possibility?
No, seriously. He looked awful. About 15, 20 years ago, he had these huge jowls. He looked terrible. Now, I mean, granted, he looks like a skinwalker or something, but at least he looks,
Oh, I mean, all he's lacking is like the lip filler and stuff to just be like up with modern
yeah, but
time.
He's like 1,000 years old. I'm just saying. He looked very close to death's door back in like the early to mid 2000s. People need to look this up. They're not going to believe me, but he looked worse then than he does now.
I mean,
20 years
plastic
later.
surgery does that to you.
Well, there's a video of him being outside of CNN headquarters, talking to individuals, hugging individuals, and again, he doesn't look that good.
No,
he
not
looks
that-
like
not
the
that
crypt
one.
keeper.
Not that one.
Look at that, Steph. Keep the camera on the browser, please, Steph.
A tug of war online.
As of course, look at his face here.
Which
look at
ears?
his
I can't
eyes.
see. That's too far.
Those are the connected ones.
Those are
Yes.
the connected ones. I don't remember if that's the old Biden or the new Biden.
So it looks like Roger will be soon joining us back in studio. As of course we have the breaking news. We'll update Roger as soon as he, of course, comes down. But I don't know if you heard this, but Rumble totally down. They took down the Rumble stream, so no one is able to actually go to the website.
That's awful.
And see the counter information.
Nobody can see the Stone Zone. That's
I know. And no one could hear the live debate coverage from Tim Pool, from all the other individuals that are going to be streaming. There's other individuals that are just predominantly streaming on that platform, and their voice is stifled. As, of course, there's a direct attack on independent media as we're just 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away. Rumble goes completely
It's
down.
just a coincidence, right?
No,
It's just a
interestingly, for whatever reason, Alex Jones, who I just visited with for a moment, thought that he would have the feed up at InfoWars, thought that he would have the feed up on his X profile, his personal profile at Twitter, now known as X. Now, I don't know if he pirated it. I don't know how he got it, but I hope it's true.
No,
Yes,
I mean
that's what we're going to do. We told everyone to go to the Twitter accounts at Luke We Are Change and Clint's, Martha's. We have the stream up there right now, continuing the conversation there, which is still one of the platforms that is fighting for free speech and actually willing to stand up for independent content creators. But if it wasn't for Rumble, if it wasn't for Twitter, if it wasn't for Elon Musk, we wouldn't have a voice today, which is crazy, especially with what CNN is threatening to do to independent media. We're time is only going to tell. We're only a few minutes away. I'm talking to the executives at Rumble right now, and they're saying they're experiencing issues. Their team is on it, and that soon we might get a statement from Chris Pavlovsky
Obviously,
soon,
the Russians.
and we'll break it
Clearly
here.
the Russians, right?
Clearly.
The hackers, the Russian hackers that hack everything
Well,
in
it's
our
probably,
democracy.
it's probably the deep state. Actually, when you
Yes.
think about it.
No, of course.
No,
Why would I mean? Obviously, the CIA, the FBI, the deep state, as you described it, would greatly prefer that you only get the coverage of this debate from Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and all these scumbags. They don't want to hear from us. Absolutely not.
That's why they
their
removed
narrative.
the comments. They don't want to hear from the American people having this discussion. That's why they're removing these platforms. Of course they don't want it. And of course it's the deep state. Who else would it be?
And yet they constantly espouse the merits of democracy as if you can have a viable, functioning democracy with a public that is completely ignored, shunned, censored. In fact, the SCOTUS came down just yesterday. I don't know if we talked about it on yesterday's show. Amy Coney Barrett being the deciding vote. It's absolutely catastrophic that despite the fact that they're coercing social media into censorship practices, they have now ruled that to be constitutional. Stunning.
It's outrageous. You know what? I'm 2 for 2. I advised President Trump that Kavanaugh was no good, and I told him that Amy Coney Barrett was no good. He said, "Oh, but she's so good on life." I said, "Yeah, but she's so wrong on everything else."
Yep.
Done in, sadly, by our own appointments. On the other hand, who would Robert Kennedy put on the Supreme Court?
Probably not better.
Worse. Worse.
The head
without
of
any
Google,
question.
right? As of course he's interconnected with his VP
Yeah, in fact, if
candidate
he wants
with
to have
Silicon
a debate
Valley.
tonight, he had to debate his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, because she's a progressive leftist, one of the major financiers of the defund the police movement. She just found out, by the way, a couple weeks ago, did you know we have an immigration problem in this country, an illegal immigration? She never knew that.
Roger, I met her at the LP National Convention, and I've listened. I've talked to her. I've listened to much of her interviews recently. She comes across in her current version of herself as basically a libertarian. Is this all a put on?
Yeah, well, here's I guess what I would say is, if you're really, really upset about manipulation of information on the internet and censorship, have a word with your ex-husband, because every single penny to your name, Nicole, came from suppressing American people by Google. When did she become a patriot? I mean, I just think it's an act. But it's interesting because by law, there's only 2 people who can give without limitation to the Kennedy-Shanahan ticket: Robert Kennedy, who's not a man of wealth, and Nicole, who could strike a check for $50 million and not miss it, but his campaign has no money in it. So maybe he didn't get what he thought he was getting in the bargain here.
According to Robert Barnes, he came out today and said that if the debate isn't going like Trump wants it to go, he's going to announce his VP in order to kind of galvanize the media attention. I don't know if you heard about that Roger, but there was a lot of statements about Trump bringing his VP to the presidential debate tonight, and he's bringing a lot of people, as of course Vivek is there, Brian Daniels is there, the guy with the hairy eyebrows.
The most highly potential next vice president. That guy?
Yes, that guy.
That guy.
That guy. Bergram is
Burgum,
there.
Governor Burgum.
Yep. So what do you make of this? Do you think that could be a tactic here that Trump could utilize?
When I first saw it, I said, well, there goes Trump. He's playing us. I mean, the guy is the master of the news cycle. So if you think about it, back during the Iowa town hall, he said, I've already selected the vice president. I just haven't told them who it was. It was a short news cycle, didn't get much pickup. Now he did it again the other day. He said, I've already picked my person. I haven't asked them yet. I might announce it before the debate. No, I might announce it during the debate. Well, maybe I'll announce it after the debate. I think it's a ploy. It may be a tactic that he's keeping in his back pocket. The last time I talked to him, he had not really decided on who he wanted. The good news was that he seemed to be trending in the right direction in terms of not selecting a neocon. And no, Ron DeSantis, he's not taking Nikki Haley, so stop pushing that.
We don't want a neocon in there because it's not safe for him. But it looks like the debates have officially started.
We better hop off YouTube or no?
Let's see what happens.
All right.
Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until election.
Roger, between J.D.
Good evening, I'm
Vance,
Dana Bash,
Byron Daniels,
anchor
and
of
Vivek,
CNN's Inside
who's
Politics
the
and
most
co-anchor
America First,
of
in your
State of the
opinion?
Union.
Give me my list again. J.D. Vance.
Byron Daniels and
I think
Vivek.
I think I take Byron Donalds of those two. Look, I really like J.D. Vance, but 2 years in the U.S. Senate doesn't give you the gravitas or the experience to be president. I think
He wasn't a Trump fan just a few years ago.
and
too.
but I do think J.D. Vance could be president, someday.
Interesting.
Someday. Look, everybody knows I'm for Tulsi Gabbard. That's where I would go. The Democrats would go out of their minds.
That would be such a great ticket.
But on the big picture issues, the ones that matter, war, the border, life, guns, she's rock solid. She's tested. You've already seen her take Kamala Harris to the cleaners in the debate. She's extremely sure-footed. I am very rarely impressed by political figures. She's absolutely amazing. I mean, she just led her perfect in her approach and in her touch.
And now we play the game to see if YouTube and CNN will take us down. As of course, the debates have now
There is no
officially
studio audience tonight.
started.
Pre-written notes,
And
thoughts, or
here's
contact with campaign staff
CNN. Let
are
me know
not
if you guys want
permitted
your
during the debate.
audio.
Yeah,
By
just for
accepting
the
our
audience's sake, I want you guys to be
invitation
aware
debate,
that
both candidates
if we
and their
get taken down
campaigns
wherever you're
agreed
watching it,
to
just
accept
go to
these
X. It'll
rules.
almost certainly be up.
Now,
So,
please welcome
Luke, we are
the
changed, or
46th president of the
Libby
United
Lockpod,
States,
find it.
Joe Biden.
Here's Joe Biden.
There's no one there, Joe.
Who are you talking to? Hi, folks. How are you? Not a good start.
And please welcome the 45th president of the United
He looks a
States,
little lost.
Donald Trump.
Get the big dick swag.
We're still on YouTube.
Oh, my bad.
It's the BDE.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President
He
Trump?
looks lost. Great question.
Take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. It'll be all right. The economy collapsed.
He sounds
There were
awful.
no jobs.
We're 60 seconds in and he's
Unemployment rate
lying.
rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met.
No,
during
dude,
the
you
month,
come
was
from
a
Greenville,
problem.
Delaware.
The price of eggs, the price of
richest
gas, the
place in
price of
America.
housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination
Cap
of
rents,
what I was left with
great.
the
Yeah,
corporate greed
that
is
always
why we're
works.
in this problem right now. In addition to that,
Dude, they
we're in a
screwed up
situation
on
where
the mix for his
if you had
what's
take a look
cocktail?
at all
What's
that was
wrong
done in
with his
his
voice?
administration,
Sounds terrible.
he didn't do
Energy's
much
terrible.
at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot.
That's
as opposed to
$35?
$400. No
Not
senior
15?
has to pay more than
was done by
$200.
Trump.
It was done by
Right.
Trump.
Any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table.
It's
and that's what we're
insane
gonna
that this
get
guy's
done.
the president of the United States.
Thank you, President
It's
Trump.
insane.
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world.
The Fed.
You know,
the Fed thinks that it was.
The fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine.
Wow.
And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question.
Biden does
about the
not look
national
good.
debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to
$500 billion in 10 years does nothing.
I was going to say the same thing. Nothing.
Child care,
That's like
elder care,
2 weeks.
making sure that
We're racking
continue
$1
to
trillion in debt every
strengthen our
90
healthcare
days.
system,
He's talking
making
about
sure that we're able to
$500
make
billion
every single
Yeah,
solid
that'll
10
cover
years.
maybe a week or two.
eligible
6 weeks.
for what I've
Yep.
been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with.
Look at Trump looking at him. Oh, dude, he's shutting down.
Oh,
He's shutting
finally
down.
beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Wow, that was a.
Well, he's
battle.
right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare.
Suddenly
so
I
he
like
was
Biden.
right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside. and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority
Smart
of
answer by
constitutional
Trump.
scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters.
Forced to take showers with.
It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state line.
Thank you.
Why would he
There
bring
have
up
been many
the
young women
That was a
murdered
big
by the same
mistake.
people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country.
Just gift wrapped
and they
this to
are
Trump.
raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion,
They're gonna pull
President
Biden.
7 states.
I agree.
I'll let
I
you
think
do
so,
that.
too.
This is
There's
insane
no way he's
topic.
running in November.
7
I mean, look
states
at-
Yeah.
No.
have
He's a
no
mess.
legal
Look at his face right now.
restrictions
Does
on
that
how
mean that
far into
Kamala's
a
going to be
pregnancy
the
a woman
presidential
can obtain
candidate or
her
somebody
I
else?
don't think so.
Do you support any legal
Obama?
limits
Dude,
on
look at
how
that face.
late a
That's-
woman
that's an
should
I
be
made a
able to
poopy face.
terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that
You're the
means we
president,
can
dude.
Take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen.
CNN just
But we
allowed
are
him to
not for
interrupt.
late-term abortion,
They did.
period.
And
Period,
you could hear
period.
him.
Yep.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board.
51
That's
years
6
ago,
weeks or
when
7
I
or
just
8 or
had my
10 weeks,
45th
something
birthday.
very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue
I
of
wanna make
immigration
sure
and
that you
border
can murder
security.
your
President
children.
Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated.
That's still happening.
That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of this. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
Oh, that's so good.
we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the
Look at his
largest
face.
number of terrorists coming into
He's
our
like on
country
pause.
right now.
He's in
All
so much
terrorists,
trouble,
all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol...
You mean during COVID when
and by the
nobody
way,
was
endorsed
moving?
me for president. but
Congratulations.
I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had
Did he
the
just call him
safest border in
Brandon?
history.
Oh, my
Now
God,
we have the worst
epic.
border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration. Killed three American soldiers.
And
Killed three
we
American
have
soldiers.
Biden has
That's
left
the
the
only
building.
terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said.
Oh, no, we
Once
have
again,
videos.
He's exaggerating, he's lying.
He's like, we don't know that they're from
President
prisons.
Trump,
we don't have
staying
any
on the
clue where
topic
they're
of
coming from.
immigration, you've said
Venezuela
you carry out,
literally
quote,
opened the
largest
prisons. They did a
domestic
Fidel
deportation
Castro and
operation
just
in
let
American
them all
history,
in.
unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
President
and it's a
Biden?
very sad
Trump
day.
is very
Remember-
disciplined and on it.
Every single thing he says is a lie.
The contrast
Every
is
single
just
one.
amazing.
For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because
They
what
have to
happened,
take Trump's
whether it
face
was
off.
Agent Orange or
They do the
burn
split
pits,
screen
they're
for
all being
Biden, but
covered
then-
now.
I love it when
And
he does the
opposed-
pucker
his
thing, though.
Group opposed that.
Look
We're
at him,
also
look
in a
at him puckering.
situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery.
I hate that he brings up
World
his
War I
son's
cemetery
cancer
I
when
used
he
to go
did
to.
a whole
He was standing
cancer
with his
initiative
four-star
of
general.
cancer.
Not
He
just
told
that,
me,
but
he
he
said, "I don't
voted
wanna
for
go
these
in there
stupid
because they're a
wars that
bunch
put
of
his
losers
son
and
in
suckers."
in that,
harm's way.
My
yeah.
son was not a loser, was not a sucker.
But
You're
he
the sucker.
uses
You're the
his
loser.
son to raise
President
money.
Trump?
You're the sucker. You're
First
the
of all, that was a
loser.
made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should
Joe lied about
apologize
it.
to me right
Yep.
now.
Yes, apologize.
Yes.
Star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for
could
veterans
also not
than ever
make more
before in our
veterans.
history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
I love it.
Former
Russia's
President
war.
Trump,
Yes.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms
It's not
acceptable
exactly
to you?
true. by the
First
way.
of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened.
right.
He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my, this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
Ooh, that was good. He's on fire
Never heard
tonight.
so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked.
I don't
He
know.
said they're just having headaches. That's all it is.
Oh, he's talking about
didn't
Havana?
do a thing
Or
when the
Havana?
attack
The
took
Havana
place,
syndrome?
Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where
We saw
if you
people
take a look
falling
at what
out of airplanes.
Trump did in Ukraine.
Is he really going to say
this
that
guy
he did a good
told
job there?
He told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And
Trump
he, in
used to
fact,
flip
didn't
this
do
and
it at all.
hammer
He
him
didn't
on
wasn't able to
Burisma,
get it
Hunter,
done.
the
And
entire
they've lost
Ukraine corruption.
they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if I
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not
She
acceptable.
lied about the terms.
But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest
Burisma
salesman
isn't
ever.
gonna pay for itself.
And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
Wow, that's a
Biden,
great
you have a
promise.
Saying it, he'll
The
be
fact
impeached
is
for that.
Putin is a
Trust
war
me.
criminal.
Because they're going to say
He's
that
killed
you're having conversations.
thousands
You can't
and
do that.
thousands
That's
of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants.
That's
and
not
then Do you
true.
think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you
Just
think
a week
happens
ago,
to
he
Poland? What do you think? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so, if you want,
mean,
a
if
war,
you're
you ought
losing,
to
I think it's a
find out
great
what
time
he's
to
gonna
start
do,
lying.
Because if in fact he does what
Nobody
he
can-
says
like,
and
what are
walks
people gonna
away,
say to that?
By the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas
Rumble is
and
back
Israel
up.
to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one. They're the only ones standing up. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. One Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas.
Does he sound like a raspy idiot to anybody
They don't
else?
have to do
very
it.
raspy.
And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be.
Whispering.
They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
That's why they have no audience.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second.
Because he can't.
We have an
project.
ocean
Yeah.
separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to
Get out of NATO. Yes. Say
the
yes.
idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have
Ukraine is
continue
getting
to go
demolished right
into
now.
NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up.
It's not true.
Would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever.
Pivot.
On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6,
How about the OSHA mandates from Biden that got shot down by the Supreme Court because
Well,
they were
I didn't say
unconstitutional?
that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
Yeah, and Brennan was the one who undermined Trump to make that happen.
He encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, he is...
It's only because you
what
haven't
he's
been
telling you
tried
is
yet.
simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him about the first two debates we had, the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapsed on the most important thing. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump.
That was
President
a great
Biden,
answer.
You have said,
That was
I'm coming right
fire.
to you, sir.
Trump is on fire tonight.
Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute
And
to
Biden's
respond.
pooping his
The
pants.
idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous.
Outrageous.
It's simply a lie, number one.
How dare you?
Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things?
Oh my God, seriously.
Of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant. I mean, what are you talking
Why
about?
does he owe Americans
You
anything
have the
for
morals
that?
of an alley cat.
He's going dirty, man.
Do you have a minute, sir?
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case.
There's a difference.
That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming out. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some
Isn't
good
that what
ideas?
he's doing?
What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? And this is the guy who says
didn't
Hitler's
say
done
that!
some good things.
How are we
Let you know
still
what they
doing
are.
this?
Good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy
Oh my
has no
God.
sense of American democracy.
I can't believe that this.
President Trump.
Even Snopes
Jake,
corrected
both
the
of you know
record.
that, sir, has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that, sir. He just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time.
Yeah, listen to it. Play it right now. Play it right now.
Somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought
Unbelievable. This
there
guy's
were good
such a
people
pathological
coming
liar.
out of that forest, carrying
Fact
those
checker
that
finds
would-
Trump
carrying
didn't
those
call
torches,
neo-Nazis
and he
fine
didn't
people.
deserve to be
It's been
president.
debunked.
Didn't deserve to be
Yeah,
president
you
at
go
all.
watch it. It's so
The
crystal clear.
idea
He says,
that he's
and I'm
talking
not talking about the
all
white
this being
nationalists
fabricated.
who should be
We saw
rebuked
it with our own
entirely.
eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th.
Even
We
Snopes
saw the
says
people
it's
breaking
not
through
true.
Windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why?
That
Why?
neocon?
They know him well.
That's
They
a
serve
good.
with
That's a
him.
good
Why are
sign.
they not endorsing
Makes me feel
him?
better about my vote.
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be
That's an
right back
endorsement.
with more from
It
the
is.
CNN presidential debate.
And now more big pharma advertisements from CNN, brought to you by Pfizer. Holy cow! This is eye-opening. This is a lot crazier than a lot of people expected it to be. As of course, Rumble's not the only thing that's down. It's also Joe Biden, as people are saying that he was accidentally given the downers. As Vivek Ramaswamy is now saying that they're going to use this commercial break in order to put in the real presidential nominee under the Democratic ticket. I'm flabbergasted. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Roger, what are your kind of responses to all
Well,
this?
first of all, I'm glad Vivek has finally seen what I've been saying for 3 years. This guy cannot make it. They know they can't make it. I actually think it may have been strategy here by the real head of the Democratic Party, Barack Obama, to put his wife in as the nominee. This is very simple in terms of the mechanics. Joe will announce in a few weeks because of his health, which is kind of obvious. A little raspy, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
Low energy, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Lower energy than Jeb Bush, if that's possible. And this guy is, and he's lying his ass off. I mean, Snopes. Snopes is a guy with Coke bottle glasses who sits at a computer and usually cranks out crap. He's the most left-wing fact checker of them all, and even he admits that the Charlottesville quote is manufactured.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, Biden's handlers are tearing their hair out. Right now, Barack and Michelle Obama are high-fiving each other because her presidential candidacy just took off the launch pad.
And you're bringing up a very interesting article that came out from Axios today, specifically highlighting how Michelle Obama really isn't happy with the Bidens.
Yeah, I saw
As of
that.
course, this is the kind of placating that they do. This is the kind of seeding that they do of these larger ideas.
Axios,
And
just
you're right.
to be clear, they're not journalists either.
Yep.
They're the mouthpiece for the CIA and the Washington elite. There's not a decent reporter there. There's not an honest reporter there. Actually, there are no journalists there. They're just distortionists. I follow them because I want to find out what the cognoscenti who hate the American people are thinking.
What's the messaging that they're trying to get across to the American people? And today, it's Michelle Obama's really not happy with the Bidens.
Right.
And then again, he's just lying after lying. He started off his statement by saying Donald Trump told everyone to inject bleach. He never did that. That's a lie. Clint, go ahead.
No, that was the point I was going to make is that within 60 seconds of starting the debate, he floats the totally debunked, utterly nonsensical, Donald Trump told you to put bleach in your body. Didn't happen, never happened, total lie. Then he runs out the whole Charlottesville lie.
Suckers and losers.
The suckers and losers lie.
I mean, one guy says that, General Kelly, a guy who got shit canned by Donald Trump, the worst chief of staff in history, a guy who thought that his job was to save the country from Donald Trump.
Yep.
19 others who are present at the same time say it doesn't happen.
Exactly. I mean, this is just over and over again. It's just years of this gaslighting nonsense where they continue to perpetuate these obvious on tape lies that everybody knows, that is even somewhat politically aware. Everyone knows that these things have been totally debunked. If you were smart, you knew off top that it was BS, but they continue to push it. We're like 1,000 years into the Trump era, and they're still lying about the guy. It's just amazing that they can't do anything better than that.
Well, and he played the convicted felon card. But the difference between Trump and Biden is Biden wasn't fit to stand trial, or he too would be a convicted felon.
Absolutely.
Because his own Justice Department determined that he willfully retained documents in violation of the law. He should be standing trial right now. Why isn't he?
Because he's incompetent. He cannot stand trial. He was a nice old man who kept forgetting
He
things.
was never nice.
No, he was never nice.
That was their opinion.
He's a mean-spirited prick who doesn't know what day of the week it is.
What I would like to see from Trump is pivot when they're saying a lot of people after J6, they think that you basically violated your oath to the Constitution. How about all of the things that the Supreme Court shot down from the Biden administration, including the OSHA mandate that said that Biden had violated the Constitution itself? Why is that never brought up?
Yep. It looks like we're back with the presidential
We are
debate.
back. Before we go back, Ted Cruz 2 minutes ago just tweeted out that the Dems are going to dump Biden and get ready for Michelle Obama as their nominee.
Yep.
Also, he retweeted Zero Hedge that has Biden at the lowest. Trump is trending,
Acknowledge they made a lot
Biden
of
is down.
progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses.
What?
In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for
when they talk like this,
costs.
it's so racist.
Got to make sure we
It's so racist.
provide that child
We're going to
care
propel
protection.
this one group over the other.
Yeah.
You're going to suffer.
But like particularly saying it's really hard for black people to
So
take care of their
there's
kids.
more
It's
to be
like,
done,
bro.
considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame
I
them
say if
for
you
being
don't vote for me, you
disappointed.
ain't black.
Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home.
Let's juice
so
that
they can
housing
get
bubble.
started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that
They
had
certainly
health
upped his
insurance.
dose, though.
We have covered.
He's
the
back.
ACA has increased.
Let's see how long
we
it
made
lasts.
sure that there are $8,000 per person in the family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water.
Please say no.
And I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment.
The cleanest water?
Out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius,
did that include around
there's no way
train
back.
crash?
The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
Biden should just start screaming racial
Paris
slurs.
Accord
Like
was going
it's
to
over.
cost us $1 trillion.
His career is over.
And China
It is
nothing, and Russia nothing,
mouth
and
agape.
India nothing.
No clue where he's
It was a
at.
ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he supports, is in fact
he doesn't support it.
Well.
He specifically
The idea
denounced it. He has an
we
ad
don't need
of
to
Joe
protect our
requiring
seniors.
calling
It's
for means
ridiculous.
testing and Social
We put-
Security
and by the
extension
way,
of the
American
age
public
for
has greater health care coverage
to get your
today than
benefits.
ever
Is a
before.
great spot on it
And
that
on
they
this
just
year,
put
as I
up.
said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it, because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two,
He fired the general that
idea
lied.
that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession, and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
This was a black stand-up comedy joint in New York. They would grab the shepherd's cane and just hook Biden off the stage. Get him out of here.
In the history of the world.
They're going to do that.
Finest in the history
I know.
of the
They're
world.
going to do that.
No one
just
thinks
not
we're
tonight.
weak. No one.
I'm just saying
wants to
physically.
screw around.
You know, every
Nobody.
DNC
Number
person
one.
is just like,
Number two, the
hook
idea
him. Get him
that
off.
we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't
On
joking.
Twitter, people are
Look it up.
actually
Go online.
like claiming that he's doing
159
okay.
or
Like
58, I don't
Dems.
know the
Oh
exact
yeah.
number.
Oh yeah.
Presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history.
Bots.
One through best to worst. They said he
Maybe
was the
counts
worst
too.
in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about
He's
what
so,
would you do to
he's
make
so
child care more
rudderless.
affordable to
Tapper's
American
just
men.
like, all right,
Just so
thank you, dude.
understand.
We're done.
We have polling.
He said we need to
have
increase
other
the availability
things
of men
that
and women.
they
He
rate
has
him the
no
worst
idea what he's talking about.
because what he's done is so bad, and they rate me. I'll show you. I will show you. And they rate me one of the best. Okay, and if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any
What is he going on
progress
about?
with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border.
Oh, dear God.
And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of
government
agents, more numbers
action.
of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say there's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns
Your brain's obviously broken,
about your
Joe. What are you going to do about
capability to
that?
handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics.
Yeah, that's
I'm
how
the
age
youngest
works.
person
You just
ever
learned
elected
chronology,
to the United
Joe?
States Senate, and now I'm the oldest.
Jesus.
This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that
I
this
used
is
to
a
be
record.
young.
Look at what I've done. Look, I've turned around the horrible situation. you
Over
left
100 years ago.
As I said,
I was
50
young.
million new jobs, 800,000.
I spent half my life being not old.
Back when the dinosaurs ruled from
in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs they call that to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them, and there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, we send love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Everybody loves us.
Former President Trump,
All
to
of the
follow
people
up,
that we
you
send
would be
billions of
82
dollars
at the
to
end of
love
your
us.
second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was
We might get our
years
opportunity to
ago.
see
I feel
Joe
very good.
Biden
I feel the same.
challenge him to
But
a fight.
I was willing
Let's
to
hope.
take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he said.
Anyway.
Take a look at what he is. What was that? Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president.
Are we
down
really
to a
talking
6.
about golf?
Yes.
And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's the 6th handicap of all.
Fight.
Come on, Joe. Prefer to take it outside.
I mean, in fairness, that is insane. There's no way Joe Biden
Specific concerns
could shoot under
that voters
80.
have about
It's
you.
insane.
I don't
Will you
speak golf,
pledge
sorry.
tonight
Sorry, it's just
that
ridiculous.
once
He's a
all
total
legal
liar.
challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say is one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III.
Yes,
and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all.
Strong counter, Mr.
Response.
Owl. Could you open your eyes wider, please?
The idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation.
I have no idea.
We have wonderful things because of the people.
We should have had a Biden interpreter here tonight.
Of anything.
That would have been useful.
Like Key and
Peele. Right now, we're needed. We're needed
would have been
to protect
great.
the world because of our own
What
safety.
he meant
as a
to
state.
say.
And again,
you pissed him off now.
Just let Putin go ahead and take keys.
See, his eyes be wide because he's furious with y'all ass.
Hungary and other places.
It has nothing to do with the meth they have him on.
President Trump, as I come back,
no
to
one
you,
would trade.
either.
No world leader would trade places with me right now. It's like, yeah, dude, I wouldn't want to be you either. What are you saying?
Regardless of who wins.
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner.
Yeah,
When
once
you
we
lost
rig the
first
election,
time,
let's see how you do.
You continue
Once they
your
give me
appeals
those
and appeals to
votes
courts
from
all
those
across
that
the country.
aren't actually alive
Not
anymore.
one single court in America.
We've got
said
entire
any
graveyards
claims had
voting for
any
me.
Merit, state or local, none. But you
And
continue
the
to promote
illegals.
this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Wow. I mean, there's so many different takeaways. As I'm on Twitter during this whole ordeal, and I'm seeing a lot of very prominent leftists saying, we got to replace him. We have to do it. As, of course, Drudge, the first article that they have up on their website right now.
Chinese agent Drudge. Yeah, go ahead. What's he have to say?
He's saying, Operation Replace Biden, Dems scramble with 130 days to go. Debate catastrophe. That's one way of putting it, as of course this is a lot worse than I thought it would be. I thought the drugs would work. They clearly didn't.
Oh no, I thought it was definitely going this way. I thought it was going to be a train wreck, and I think it was. We were right.
No, the predicted markets are changing in real time, and they're highlighting how a lot of people are saying there's no way I'm going to be voting for Joe Biden.
Luckily, they won't have to.
The predicted market with Joe Biden dropping out has just spiked 28%. The possibility of Donald Trump winning spiked up dramatically. The possibility of Joe Biden winning went down dramatically. So it's pretty clear there's going to be something else afoot here. There's going to be something else happening here. And this is extremely telling, to say the least.
What's the legality or the rules behind just like swapping someone out last minute like that?
All this could be done mechanically very easily. Barack Obama will go to Joe and say, Joe, here's a letter co-signed by a majority of the cabinet and your vice president. So we remove you this afternoon, and I tell Merrick to go after you and your brother Jim and your son. Or you simply announce that you're not running, we'll let you fill out the term so you can pardon your family members and yourself. And he's done. Now he releases his delegates because their nomination process is essentially over. And the convention can then nominate anyone they want, Michelle Obama, because she will clearly be the most important. Now, the next act you're going to see is her saying, oh, no, I can't run. I don't want to run. I'm not interested in running. Okay, I'll run. That's what you're about to say.
Backed by popular demand.
Right. And then they'll go to Kamala because they can't have two women of color on the ticket. They know that she's even less mentally cognitive than Joe, which is
saying a lot. So she'll be on the Supreme Court.
Exactly. They'll promise her a Supreme Court seat. Look, I'm 3 years out. I hate to say this, but at Turning Point USA, I predicted this 18 months ago, and I said, remember, when Steve Bannon says this a few days from now, I said it first.
Man.
I've been on this for quite some time.
I'm telling you, if Kamala Harris is a Supreme Court justice, just take America, find the closest dumpster, and throw it directly in.
Of course,
that is catastrophic.
But they would have, well, she'd be no worse than the Ketanji Brown woman who can't even say what a woman is.
That's true.
And by the way, who didn't pay any of her tax or report any of her income when she was a federal judge. So when are we removing her?
Please.
Never mind Clarence Thomas and Alito. When are we removing her?
Please.
Well, it looks like the establishment is in panic mode, as of course we have this latest tweet from Kelly O'Donnell. She's a senior White House correspondent from NBC News, and she's saying, two sources familiar with the situation say President Biden has a cold. Yes, that's the talking point right now, as there's still some individuals trying to say that Biden is doing good when clearly he is not.
Then guess what? Let's have him rematch in 3 weeks.
Exactly.
He'll get his ass stomped again. This is embarrassing.
It really is.
It's embarrassing.
And the bar was extraordinarily low. This is why everyone just kind of like assumed Biden would pass the test, because a passing grade is like a D-, but he can't even pass that.
The other thing I find comical is 51 liberal elitist professors say that you're the worst president. Why would anyone listen to them?
It's ridiculous.
Historians are left-wing academics, but the people know better. They don't have jobs. They don't have affordable housing. They have the most expensive groceries, the most expensive gasoline in our history. They know much better.
Yep, it looks like we're back
Find
from
ourselves
commercial
in
break.
a situation where, number one, we have to have a fair tax system. I
We need
ask
tax
anyone
credits
out there
for
in the
adult
audience,
diapers.
or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior.
All of these figures are microscopic. I just want people to understand, like, $160 billion over 10 years is nothing. That's like what the government spends in 2 days.
We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you,
By
President
printing
Biden.
more
President
money
Trump,
and
you now have 2 minutes for your
creating more
closing statement.
inflation.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No.
No, I'm all right. I think they're going to have closing statements, or was that the closing statement? That was closing statements. Yeah, we're not going to be tuning in to your crap news network, as of course. This was fascinating. Biden did a lot of name calling. Trump didn't take the bait. He was very disciplined. He talked about a lot of the key issues that I think spoke to a lot of the American people. And the Trump campaign just issued a statement about their historic victory against Joe Biden here. And I think it's pretty clear. Donald Trump is the clear winner here. I did some polls just to troll people, and overwhelmingly, it's like a 98% yes, Donald Trump actually won this one. A lot of other people have more creative polls saying, is it the felon or the crazy old guy who won here?
Luke,
the felon.
Luke, I really think you're being unfair. I mean, Joe had a cold. I mean, you're really being unfair to him. This is so ridiculous. First of all, what was wrong with his voice? Did you notice?
Oh, yeah.
Whispering.
Maybe he actually smoked the meth this time instead of taking it in a pill.
That could be.
He didn't take it intravenously. He smoked it just like his son. Look, and then he got smoked himself. I don't know if I've ever seen a worse performance from a sitting president in a debate. It was like It was as if he had just basically packed it in mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Well,
He's just toast.
But with one exception, that is, this guy believes everything he says.
Yeah.
Like when the special
he's an idiot.
When the special counsel's report came out and he had his hasty press conference, who could do what I've done? Indeed, you virtually single-handedly destroyed the country.
Yep.
I mean, nobody's better qualified in the world for this job than I am. He actually believes this. This guy's always had
crazy.
extraordinarily high opinion of himself. He was, by the way, interestingly enough, I talked to a dentist, universally despised in the Senate by both Republicans and Democrats.
Yep. What do you think? Just honest guess. 95 IQ? 92?
Pretty low. I mean, what this senator told me was, look, here's how the Senate works. If you're not on a relevant committee, but you have something in your state that you're concerned about, you go to another senator and you say, Senator, would you move this legislation for me? It's important to my state. And the senator, usually a senator of your own party, but not always, will say, yes, absolutely. Because he knows at some point he's going to have to go back to you and say, I need something in your committee. But when you went to Joe for something, Joe would shake you down and say, okay, well, how much are your guys going to pay?
Right.
Because he's a criminal,
Yep.
just like his son and his brother. This guy, and I'm sorry Trump didn't hit this, millions of dollars from Russia, China, Romania, Ukraine. He specifically denied that in the last debate. He looked right in the eye of the camera and he said, not a member of my family has taken a single penny from any foreign country. That's a lie. He knows it's a lie. The man is a big-time
I think the
criminal.
barista oil thing is a major scandal. That money changed hands. That his son was involved in. That he specifically got involved. He flew to Ukraine and he made sure aid was cut if the Ukrainians didn't do what the Obama administration at the time wanted them to do it.
While Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States, that's what happened. Well, I agree with Roger. In fact, I pointed that out in the first commercial break. Why would you not hit him with that? Why would you not say, Joe, the last time you and I debated, you stood before the American people and you denied that your son's laptop was legitimate. It is now undisputed that your son's laptop was totally legitimate. You lied to the American people. 51 intelligence agents lied to the American people, and you signed off on that. This is just one brick in this entire wall that you've built of corruption and illegality using the intelligence agencies to destroy this country. Why will you not apologize to the American people? Why will you not tell the truth? I just wish he would have hammered that point a little bit harder.
This is CNN right now saying sources. Dems concerned about Biden's performance today. Sources? You need sources, you adults, you idiots. Everyone just saw this train wreck and they're shocked.
The sources are the American people.
The sources are your eyes. All right? Gosh darn it, you freaking idiots. As of course, this is the response that a lot of people are tweeting right now, saying that the corporate media is saying, oh, F. Yes, absolutely. It's great to see, but there's going to be a lot of tomfoolery ahead of us. The New York Times also published this, quote, disaster piece into 30 minutes into the debate, saying that there's high anxiety for Democrats over Biden's debate performance. Yes, he is toast. This is another kind of...
who's byline on that? Just curious.
The byline is Patrick Healy.
Not familiar.
Yes, I'm not familiar.
Another distortionist, propagandist, non-reporter.
Well, undoubtedly, but still, the fact that they're even willing to acknowledge it just demonstrates.
The New York Times and the Washington Post are in this giant contest to see which can be the worst newspaper in the world. I think the Washington Post is very narrowly
It's neck and neck.
But there are no journalists left there at all. None. It's all propaganda.
100%.
There's a lot of takeaways from tonight. There's a lot of revealing kind of information, and I think it's pretty clear. If we remain the same way, the same course that we're on right now, Donald Trump is going to become the next president of the United States. But the establishment has a lot of tricks up their sleeves. I think they're worried. They're concerned. They're like a cornered animal right now. Those cornered animals lash out all the time. How do you expect them to lash out now?
Well, I think right now Neil Keitel and Andrew Weissman and Norm Eisen, the guys who essentially stole the last election, also the architects of the Russian collusion hoax as well as the Ukrainian hoax, right now they will go into high gear to go back into election fraud. They cannot possibly win a free, fair, honest, transparent election. I'm sorry, this cannot be disputed. 330,000 ballots showed up in Michigan at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you read, there's a great Gateway pundit story, which I hadn't read, the Democrat officials had the Detroit police physically remove the Republican observers so they could dump those ballots. The two women who sued Rudy Giuliani, they're lying their asses off. There's video of them. They confessed on video that they did it. But Judge Beryl Howell, the most corrupt judge in American history, the one who ruled that Trump's lawyers are forced to testify against him, a total violation of the Sixth Amendment. She basically would not let Rudy Giuliani mount that defense. It's a rigged system. But now I think they go into overdrive in the election fraud department. And when you go out and say, well, we need a lawyer, and say, oh, you see, they're gonna try to use no, we have to use technology. We need to use every legal method to make sure the elections are honest and fair, and we get a fair count.
Roger Stone, breaking news. Roger Stone says we are going to use every legal, legitimate way to try and win the election. This man is so dangerous.
Yeah, it's
Dangerous.
It's dangerous.
You might get raided by the FBI one more time with the CNN with the CNN news crews out there.
So I just saw.
If you see the CNN news crews outside your house, you got to be worried there, Roger.
I just saw this tweet by this woman, Lauren Windsor, who was whining, and I said, "Hey, do another line, bitch."
Yes, as of course, Nikki Haley. So your audio is on, just really quick, Miss.
Nydia.
Audio.
Sorry about that. As of course, Team Nikki Haley has now also tweeted, quote, "Miss me yet," which I overwhelmingly responded to by saying no, absolutely not.
Now there's a woman who's not getting a cabinet job. Right there.
Thank you. Please.
Not even a chance.
Good.
God, no, please, no.
First, well, put it this way. First, we institute an IQ test, and then if you pass the IQ test, you can have the cabinet job, and I guarantee you
she's not going to pass it.
This is true. When they made her UN ambassador, they had to bring her in with a globe and say, so this is South America, this is North America. Over here, this is Asia. Okay, down under here, I mean, she's literally adult. I mean, if Nikki Haley's IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water her like a plant.
I like how Atlas was agreeing with you as you were speaking. It was point out. The only person I saw online actually thinking that Biden was doing a great job was Krasenstein, one of the brothers. I wonder how much those people get paid to just.
Honestly, and Harry Sessions, I think that's his name.
He's
also getting cooked hard.
The two guys who are having sex with each other, those guys.
In fairness, it's three guys that are having sex with each other, Roger. Look,
I stand corrected.
I am overjoyed that it went down like this. My concern is that because it was the first debate, that means that they can now have enough leeway to really get their ducks in a row to try and both steal the election and also replace Joe.
Yeah, we're very far away. This is the thing. This debate is happening at a very strange time. They usually happen right before the voting, but we're months on out. We're 130 days before the election.
They needed this to get Biden out.
I think that's exactly right. So Joe's been stubborn. He hasn't been willing to go. Obama's come down and meet with him several times, tell him he has to yank him, and Joe doesn't want to go. Now Joe will have to go, or they will just remove him.
Yeah,
if
now
Nikki
it's clear.
Haley's IQ was 1 point lower, you would have to water her like a plant.
That was
one of the greatest digs I've ever heard in my life. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, the statements here by the current president of the United States are very concerning. As of course he said, the corporations collude. That's an exact quote from the current president of the United States. As of course I also tweeted, how does everyone feel about Michelle Obama 2024? As a lot of people are saying, it probably will be Big Mike that everyone is going to be rooting for to come in and replace Joe Biden.
You've been predicting this for a long time. Do you think that Michelle is a legitimate contender to beat Trump?
Well, it's too early. It's a little too early to say. One of the things that was interesting is very early in the Trump candidacy, he never polled particularly well.
True. He's polling well now, which is rare.
But early on, this was true in when we looked at it in 2012. It was true when we looked at it in 2000. It was true when we looked at it early in 2015. And he would always say to me, well, it's because I'm not a candidate yet. He says, people don't vote for me in the polls because they don't think I'm really running.
Right.
And I said, that's wrong. He was absolutely right. As soon as he became a candidate, he skyrocketed. So I think that people still see her in the celebrity context. And therefore, I don't think we have a fair measure of how good or bad she would do as a candidate.
But I mean, you've got decades of experience. What's your instinct?
She also had. Well, I think she'd be formidable because, first of all, unlimited cash.
True.
No record to go after.
True.
She's never held a political
She's a blank
office.
slate.
Right. She's a blank slate.
She has school lunches that allegedly helped people, but brought in kind of more seed oils and processed foods and kind of hurt them and screwed over a lot of young children. But other than that, there's nothing really to run on. Oprah Winfrey would, of course, rally behind her. All the celebrities would love her.
Yeah.
So the way that this would play out is that all of these institutions, Google, all the intelligence agencies, all the power apparatuses would say, yes, this is it. We have to convince the American people to vote for Michelle Obama. And if you look at the kind of celebrity influence, if you look at a lot of the American people just being sick of the two-party kind of leadership that has enthralled this country, they could see her as an outsider as well, which is something that Trump has, and they could counter that with a lot of people who are in the middle. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things. The people in the middle who are going to be deciding this election in the key swing states that are going to say, she's an outsider too. I want someone new. I want something different. We can't keep up with the old status quo. And I think that's the big danger there. The celebrities, the psyops, the institutions, and more importantly, the outside, her being an outsider.
And there'll also be this assumption, like there was with Hillary. Well, if you elect her, her husband's really going to be running things.
Exactly.
So this will be his fourth term because he's running things now, and let's face it, he's run things into the ground.
And not only that, like, let's think about what it would be for, and I know this might sound weird, but for other countries to see like a woman running the United States, I think that that's something that is actually detrimental.
I don't.
In terms of
there's plenty of countries that have women running it, and or just fine. The country of Georgia has one. I mean, there's plenty of women that have run. I think that's more of an American thing where we see the sex of the person as like this big issue.
I think I'm speaking more of like countries like in the Middle East and things like that, where it's like there are differences between like how men and women are viewed.
And the reality is that the Middle Eastern nations view those European nations that are ran by women, and they think that it's a laughingstock, but it doesn't really matter because the power structure is very Eurocentric, very American-centric. So, like, we still dominate them. I'm not really concerned with the sex of the person as much as I am the ideology. The issue is that so many women that get involved in politics, they run as this overly warmongering masculine figure because they're trying to offset the sexism, the perspective of women that they can't be strong leaders. I want a woman that would actually be interested in peace. Unfortunately, every woman that gets to the highest level of politics seems to be a warmongering lunatic.
With the exception of Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
Who had to say to George Bush, George, don't get wobbly on me now. I mean, even
Right.
she knew he was a weakling.
Right.
Well, he was a lot more feminine than she was.
Now, I'm not surprised that we're discussing the possible replacement of Joe Biden. CNN is discussing it too, which means this is a major hallmark historic moment.
I'm a prophet in my own nation, folks. I think you'll go back and look at it historically. I think I call this very first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you said it on our show, so I remember it vividly. I mean, we've all seen such deterioration of Joe. I'm honestly stunned it took into the fourth year of his presidency for him to bow out. I was thinking once he won the election, I was like, if this guy lasts 18 months,
His
I'd be
insurance
surprised.
policy was Kamala Harris.
Yeah, actually very smart because I think he would have been replaced long ago if not for the fact that they are horrified of her in that position too.
If he would have chosen a better candidate, VP candidate, he would have.
The other thing, but the most surprising thing is how physically bad he looked. I
Yeah.
mean, he looked pale, he looked weak, he looked confused.
He had a cold, Roger.
Yeah.
Weekend at Bernie's, people.
His eyes weren't there. His speech wasn't there. His posture wasn't there. He clearly was an empty vessel, as a lot of people are saying. This guy's not running the country. Who is right now? As of course, this guy who prepped for this all week, who prepared for this, who made sure that he was ready for this specific debate, clearly is not all there.
Blinken, Ray, Larry Fink. There's a whole bunch of different people that I can name that are actually running this country, and none of them are Joe Biden.
Yeah.
None.
And this is a meltdown of the Democratic Party. Now, what is going to take its place is something that I think is going to be really concerning, and that's the writing on the wall. Because as this is going to kind of transpire, as this is going to be moving forward, there's going to be a lot of kind of implications here, especially when it comes to Trump's sentencing, which is going to be just in a few days from now. There's a lot of things at play here, as of course the RNC is going to be happening right after that, if he's even going to be able to attend it. Then of course we have the DNC in Chicago. That's in August. That still is very far away. So a lot of people were saying that they were just going to get Biden through the DNC, through Chicago, and then replace him afterwards. But I think this is going to be a lot sooner. This is going to be a lot quicker. And I think they could pull it off. And when they do, I think a Michelle Obama presidency will be not just a Barack Obama continuation kind of 4.0 administration, but also another kind of CIA administration that's going to really destroy this country from within on levels that we never seen before. Not just economic, not just culturally, not just socially, but every aspect of life will be made that much worse for everyone.
Let me spin this optimistically, though, because as you said, this is really the destruction of the Democratic Party. But also, Donald Trump represents a destruction of the old guard GOP in a way that's really profound, too. So what you're seeing is the American people throwing off both old guard parties in a way that's really profound. And I think this is ultimately why I believed in the Libertarian Party, is that I saw this kind of tidal shift occurring, and I was like, well, maybe it's time for a third party. But I think it becomes more and more obvious that in fact there is going to be revolutions within both of the parties, and what is the outcome of that product? I'm not sure, but it can't be worse than the status quo.
Well, can't be worse than where we are.
I think it's significant that they made a miscalculation. So if Trump is guilty of all these crimes, why didn't they charge him in the first year of Joe's presidency? It's because they thought Ron DeSantis, a man who has a severe personality disorder, and an overbearing wife, and who believes in nothing whatsoever. Ron Sticky Fingers DeSantis. They thought he was going to beat him. Then they actually thought Nikki Haley might beat him. So they waited too long. They never saw his monumental resurgence for the nomination. That's why they're up against the clock, and that's driving him crazy. One of the things they criticized me last week, said, "Oh, you see, Stone said the delay in these legal cases." No, he's allowed due process. The fact that you're trying to expedite these trials in the fourth year of Biden's presidency, there's the illegality. There's the unconstitutionality.
It reminds me of Latin America. This is what they do in Latin America. They go after their political prisoners and they try and throw them in jail. This happened in Nicaragua. 7 presidential candidates last year were put in jail. And this just reminds me of it. I mean,
well, the key thing to note about those banana republics is also that the CIA was usually involved in overthrowing the establishment political ruling class. That isn't exactly different than what's happening now. I think people really need to reflect on the fact that we have lived through multiple color revolutions over the past 4 years, if not longer than that. I think that we are essentially victims of our own intelligence agencies, and I hope I can say that on this platform because I think it's honestly the truth.
Well, if we're going to see what's going to be happening next, it's pretty clear already that they're trying to stop Trump by arresting him and potentially putting him behind jail. But now I think the vast majority of the American public is going to realize they're going to do anything they can to stop him because they're going to clearly lose to him. Yeah. And now if they imprison him, and I think this his performance tonight is an insurance policy against that. Because I think if they do it now, if they do commit towards putting him in jail, that clearly this is going to be a larger kind of wake-up call for the mass majority of Americans who are clearly going to see this a lot more clearer than they would have if it wasn't for this presidential debate.
But on the other hand, the chances of them incarcerating him on the 11th is far greater now. I mean, I've always thought they would do that because they're deranged by Trump derangement syndrome. They can't help themselves, so they always overplay their hand. But now I think it is more likely than ever. If the case is about election interference, what better way to interfere with a guy's campaign than not allow him to go to the Republican National Convention to accept the nomination of his party? True. Historically, one of only 2 men to win the nomination of the Republican Party 3 times.
I mean, in truth, though, whatever they do to him at this point, I'll just speak for myself. Someone who never voted for Donald Trump, has never been a vocal supporter of his, it is making me more and more interested in supporting him because anybody that would be gone after by the intelligence agencies the way they are right now, and not just the intelligence agencies, the judicial system, the executive, all down the line. I've never seen anything like it. I want that to be repudiated. Like, this country's fate is on the line. And that it's weird because it's putting me in a position of having to defend a man who I think in many ways did not do the job that I would like to see done. However, if they're going to come after him like this, what other choice do I have?
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I mean, I echo that sentiment. I never voted for him and I never intended to. And then he shows up at our convention and he says he's going to do all these things that we all wanted. I mean, he's going to end the Department of Education. What libertarian doesn't want that? He's going to free Ross. What libertarian doesn't want that? And then now you're seeing him attacked. And it's like, no, I don't want him attacked because this is just wrong.
Right.
This is not how we have our democracy that all the Democrats are always like, we have a democracy. This is not how you do a democracy. And so now we're Team Trump. And you know what? It's not just us. At PorkFest, we were seeing even anarchists come out and say, I'm going to vote for Trump. At the time, they were saying to free Ross. And now I'm sure that they're joining us and saying, ooh, we got to vote for Trump to end this. So
For me, even above Ross, even though that's tremendously important and I care about Lynn deeply, for me, it's World War III. Like, the fact that Donald Trump has made that a focal point of his dialogue for as long as he has, I think it's way understated how important that is. Like, the danger that we face.
He said it during this debate. He will end the wars.
Yeah.
He will stop them, which is, again, the biggest, most important thing that he could say. And then when Biden was asked what he would do to stop the wars, he just kind of mumbled the old kind of rhetoric of Putin taking over Poland, which, again, a lot of people don't buy that type of rhetoric. And it's the pathway that led us here.
That's not his plan.
Yeah.
And the thing with Trump is people actually believe him that he will stop this march towards World War III. I mean, I think it's important that we hear him say it and we're like, yeah.
Well, that's
sure.
the example of 4 years. We had no new wars, and as he points out, we brought back tens of thousands of troops from the Middle East, from other parts of the country, without the countries that where we had spent millions and millions and millions of dollars collapsing into chaos behind them and falling into the hands of our enemies. And the reason for that, I hate to say it, is we had this expensive drone technology, which we stopped using in Afghanistan as soon as Joe Biden became president. Literally the day he became president, we were no longer using the drones to keep the bad guys in Afghanistan pinned down.
Peace is such a great topic for Trump to speak about, and I think that is so important. Most Americans really want peace. I mean, we're crazy inflation. There's all these issues. People can't afford their homes. They can't afford the groceries, and we're talking about starting new wars. Who are these people? Like, who's out there going like, you know what? I want some more wars.
Well, Max Boot, and that's about it.
Yeah. It looks like CNN updated their headline as they now write sources. Aggressive panic for Dems after Biden's performance tonight. I like that. As even Joy Reid, and it looks like MSNBC is also dunking on Joe Biden, which is extremely telling. As Joy Reid is now saying that her phone wouldn't stop buzzing throughout the debate. Of course, the universal reaction she's getting is that people are, quote, approaching panic.
Like, I gotta say though, historically, when Biden has had these really bad performances, it has always been the emperor has no clothes type of fable. Like, they would just spin it, like they would just deny what is obvious truth and reality. The fact that they're all doing this in unison tells me that the call has gone out. He's out. He's done. They're going to replace him.
It's coordinated. But I think it was all in place. I mean, look, this all leads back to Barack Obama. And I think this is all coordinated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I saw this last week. I get one blogger attacks me, and then suddenly it's Daily Beast, it's Rolling Stone, it's Daily Call, all within the same hour. So it's a coordinated attack.
When it first was happening, we kind of saw like a testing of the waters by the corporate media, and they were kind of hinting, maybe he's a little bit too old. Maybe we should replace. And then they kind of peeled back, as there has been a lot of pressure from the kind of main institution that put him in power. That's the media. So we saw them kind of dipping the toe into this kind of larger kind of conversation. We got to replace him. He's kind of old. We should really get someone new. We should get someone fresh in here. We're not going to win this one. We saw a lot of key people, but now in unison to have them all say this one single message at the same time, it's extremely significant. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a very crazy election cycle, as of course there's going to be a lot more surprises at hand. Who will the Democratic intel machine kind of pull out in front of us to vote and support for? Well, I think we kind of are hinting at who we think it's going to be. But let me know who you guys think it's going to be down in the comment section down below. But this is a historic night. This is a very fascinating night, and a night that I think truly does change a lot of things politically for this country. Martha, how do you think this is going to kind of play out from here?
I know what we've been saying all along. I think this is absolutely how it's going to go. I mean, I'm just looking at Twitter now, and "cooked" is trending on Twitter, and it's trending with President Trump cooked Joe Biden. So yeah, this is definitely going to end the way we thought it was going to end. It's going to end with pulling Joe Biden as a candidate, and I'm going to agree with Mr. Stone here and say that it is going to probably be Michelle Obama, and it's going to be an interesting next few months.
Tonight we had the end of the Biden political dynasty and the beginning of a new old political dynasty that's going to take over.
The Obama dynasty.
But I don't, and this whole, you can't take revenge, you can't take, no, I'm sorry. If you as vice president took bribes from China, then you ought to do time.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable. Sure. And it's very clear that he did.
Ukraine too. I mean, this guy is absolutely filthy. His family is filthy. And what's so insulting and infuriating about it is that it's just constant projection. And literally everything that Joe Biden is guilty of, he not just projects the narrative about Donald Trump, but actually has his DOJ hunting he and his family to the end of the earth on these trumped up nonsense BS pure projection charges. It's unbelievable.
Well, this also explains what's happening to Hunter Biden, who's in a very tough situation right now, who was just convicted, who is a convicted felon as well. And I think he's the kind of wild card that they're kind of using as leverage against Joe Biden. And they're saying, your son's problems could go away if you do the right thing, or we can make the problems worse.
They've given him first of all, they've already given him a pass on the most significant stuff. So he failed to report $10 million worth of income, which Mrs. Stone and I did not do, and they constantly use this as a Stone and his wife have it. No, wrong. And they purposely let the clock run out on that so he could never be brought. The chart, after 10 years, they can't come after you. When that happened, when I had an ongoing tax debt, which I had paid down at $20,000 a month for 8 years without missing a payment. That's a lot of money.
Wow.
When I no longer could pay because of the Mueller investigation, they sued me so that they could stop the clock, so that the tax debt did not expire. So the most serious charges against him have already passed.
Yep, and that's no accident.
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos has a very interesting take. He just said this was a planned assassination of Joe Biden by the Democratic Party.
That's what I just said. Yes, I agree. I think because the reason I know that is the unanimity with which they're approaching the coverage in the aftermath. Because normally they would be water carrying, regardless of how objectively horrific his performance was.
And the question that they started off with went right after Biden and his failed economic policies, the most important kind of issue for the American people. And that question wasn't easy, and I was kind of surprised. Like, whoa, they're asking him a legitimate question on CNN of all places. So it was fascinating to see, as a lot of this pre-planned.
Well, you got to keep in mind too, CNN had a major overhaul of their lineup over the past 18 months or so. They had some new guy come in that was just like, we're going to be real news again. Now, let's be honest, they're never going to be real news. However, they do want to portray themselves to be treating the candidates equitably. And I thought, in fairness, that the questions were relatively evenly stupid.
I still think Jake Tapper needs to be shit canned. Sorry.
Oh, no, I agree. I totally
absolutely
agree.
And he should never be hired by anyone again.
Yes, and he's also one of the biggest pieces of garbage on the planet.
He could be a waiter, maybe. Or not smart enough to be a bartender, but he might be able to wait tables.
After what you've had to say about him, you would not want him bringing your drink.
Good point.
I promise you that.
I just can't believe that CNN was this fair and balanced. I mean, this was actually I was impressed.
Now,
Honestly,
we were talking about dirty tricks that they could be potentially playing here, what all the rules that they set up, but no dirty tricks.
There was one time where they let Joe Cross talk. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't let Biden, and they didn't let Trump do that.
There's pictures of Biden touching his ear as if he had an earpiece going around. So that was something that maybe potentially he had a little help there. But, other than that, I think it was as fair and balanced as I could expect from CNN.
Yeah, it was like with Joe. The bar was exceedingly low. They surpassed it. Joe managed to do a limbo underneath his incredibly low bar. It's just an amazing evening. I enjoyed it tremendously.
I did too. Thank you all very much for this. This has been a great evening. I've had a great time watching this poop show.
Roger, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for giving us your insight, your comedy, your humor. We definitely were very honored to have you here tonight.
Thank you. It's very nice.
The commentary was definitely on point. Thank you for watching this absolute crap show with us and commentating on all the insanity that we're seeing unfold in front of us.
You're one of the best roast comics on the planet. I don't even know if people realize this, but like the disses he's dropping on the fly are elite level comedy. Have you ever given any tips to Trump on his debate performance?
No, but I might go into stand-up. I'm kind of sick
You
of
should.
politics.
I would be there
should.
for that.
I
Yes.
started doing
Yes.
stand-up.
Hell yeah.
You know, I mean, last night I dreamt that I ate a 20-pound. No, I get this wrong. I dreamt that I ate a 20-pound marshmallow. I woke up, my pillow was gone. One of those.
Brilliant stuff. Always an honor. Always a pleasure to have you here. Where can people find out more information about you? Where can they support you?
StoneZone.com. Place to go is StoneZone.com. And from there, you can go to my Rumble show, The Stone Zone, at rumble.com/Roger Stone. Guess that's not up right now. And then on weekends, 77 WABC Radio in New York. That's WABCRadio.com. Any place in the world, we're live streaming from 4 to 6 on Sunday afternoons.
Awesome.
Plus, my print stuff is all at Stone Zone. So go there.
Absolute pleasure. Martha, thank you so much for coming here as well and being a part of the show. Where can people find out more information about you?
I'm on X, it's my favorite platform, at Bueno for Miami.
At Liberty Lockpod on X. Look, guys, first off, I had Owen Benjamin on yesterday. I've got Ian Carroll on July 3rd. I've got Dr. effing Ron Paul on the 4th of July.
Yes.
Do you understand how big of a deal that is?
That's cool.
I mean, the rest of the lineup for July is absolutely insane. Sam Tripoli, Dave Smith. It's going to be ridiculous. If you haven't subscribed to Liberty Lockdown by now, you're an idiot. I despise you. You don't love America. You don't love liberty. You don't believe in the Bill of Rights. You're a bad person. So you can remedy all of that just by searching Liberty Lockdown on either podcatchers, wherever. Just fucking search Liberty Lockdown and subscribe. Thank you.
And you can find me on X at StephWRC.
We return tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Matt McKibben is going to be on with us.
Kibby.
So, potato. Stay tuned for that and a
Pierogi.
lot more.
You're turning him into an Irishman. It's Matt Kibbe.
And listen,
Pierogi.
we're also not far away from the tasering, which is going to be happening very soon, especially with all your subscriptions
I
and all
think
your
we should
support.
try tasing Luke. Maybe you'll make him able to pronounce names.
I would love to be the one to taser you. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. It's such a hard job, Luke, and but I will take one for the team.
No, I want to take the responsibility of doing this. Someone has a delicate heart. We'll find out if he does or if he doesn't.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Wear
We'll
some
see
diapers,
if
sir.
we'll see if he's telling the truth here. We'll make him. Make him do the debate. Biden.
Join Joe Biden in the old person home.
Exactly. It's going to be fun. And every time you guys subscribe, you guys are a part of that. So stay tuned for that and a lot more. All here on the best political.